Assalamualaikum and good day to everyone. First, let me ask you something. Where did you learn about sex education? Who taught you about sex education? Have you ever thought that sex education can change the way you live? You need to pay attention to this speech because from the website www.bureau247.my currently stated that currently 90% of respondents agree that sex education will not be taught in Malaysian schools or at home. So safe to say that 90% of us in this room were not taught about sex education at our school or at home. By the end of this speech, you will find out a way to solve this issue and maybe look at the benefits that you could experience when you do what I'm going to talk about. As someone who is a student, I know that sex education is not being taught at our school or at home. I understand why people rather not teach about sex education to children. So, I've done my research regarding sex education and I'm going to propose the solutions to solve this issue. Based on my studies, I am convinced that there is a huge problem coming up our way in the topic of sex education. So, I'm going to talk about the problems that our society is facing, the solutions to overcome this issue, and the benefits that we can achieve upon changing the way of thinking towards sex education. Let's talk about the problems first. I'm sorry. Because this issue is not a big concern for most of us, I found a way to solve this issue, which I will tell you later in this speech. And I will also like to paint a picture why this solution is the best decision you ever made. Let's talk about the problems first. Problem number 1. Teenagers learn about sex from pornography. Due to curiosity, teenagers tend to do things that adults do, and most of it were things that is prohibited for them, especially sex. From Bernama News, with a survey conducted by Malaysia Against Pornography, MAP, 80% of children aged 10 until 17 watch pornography intentionally. Thus, it will trigger their sex drive even at a young age and likely to have a sex intercourse with someone such as their partner without not really knowing about the consequences. Other than that, watching pornography can affect their health mentally and physically. From the website www.alustforlife.com said that watching pornography is associated with depression, anxiety, and anger. This can lead towards mental health distress and also leads to suicidal thoughts. In conclusion upon this problem, we can truly see that pornography is a bad way for our children to learn about sex in education. Now that we know about our first major problem, let's take a look at the second problem which can affect their social life. Teenagers tend to have premarital sex with their partner. The most common consequences of having premarital sex is HIV or AIDS. From the Ministry of Health, as of 2019, estimated that there were 87,581 people living with HIV in Malaysia, but only 77,903 are aware with their status. So, the victims will likely to live cautious and scared with the people they are friends with. Other than that, this problem can affect their social life. From the website pubmed.ncbi.gov.my, DIG2011.nih.gov from a survey clearly stated that 77.5% reported that premarital sex was socially prohibited. This shows that the community or the society say no towards premarital sex, and for those who has done it will get isolated from society or even from their own family. Imagine if that was you. Sadly, you will get isolated and turned down by your own family. In conclusion, premarital sex is a huge concern in our community nowadays, just because the teenagers don't learn about sex education in their life. We have discussed two problems of why sex education is important. Now let's look at the last problem, which is about illegitimate babies. Problem number 3, the rising cases of illegitimate babies. This problem caused by the wrongdoers going out late night and having sex without taking precautions such as using condoms or birth control pills. From the Star News, in a 2018 article, there were almost 5,000 cases of illegitimate babies born to the girls aged 18 and below in 2017 reports. Other than that, the future for the teenagers, for the wrongdoers, especially among teenagers, will be darkened by their own actions they had done. There's actually a story documented by Rach from www.rach.com.my. A girl named Mariam, which is not her real name, 17, should have been preparing for her SPM. Instead, she is 6 months pregnant and lived in a shelter home for unwed mothers. She said, most teenagers have sex without thinking it will result in pregnancy. After giving birth, she still takes care of her newborn and lives as an unwed mother. In conclusion, the rising cases of illegitimate babies is mainly caused there is no proper sex education that can change the way they live their life. Now that we know the problems upon our topic, let's discuss the solutions. Solution number 1. The government should introduce sex education in primary and secondary schools with ethical and formal way. From the website www.nursing.usc.edu said that when sex education is comprehensive, students will feel more informed, make safer choice, and have healthier outcomes. Solution number 2. Parents should teach their children, especially those in teenage years, about sex education seriously and politely. From the website www.aboutkidshealth.ca stated that when parents talk with their child about sex, they can make sure they are getting the right information. Parents should be a child's first source of information. In conclusion, we have talked about two solutions to overcome the problems we had discussed. But there is actually many other solutions rather than these two. Now let's look at the benefits that we can get from our solution. Sex education can help the youngsters ensure their health, their social life, and their future. From www.pediatrics.aappublication.org stated that sex education has been shown to help to prevent and reduce the risk of adolescent pregnancy, HIV, and sexually transmitted infections for children and adolescents. It looks like we have reached the end of my speech. Summarize it all, we have talked about the problems which were about pornography, premarital sex, and illegitimate babies, the solutions that should be taken by the government and parents, and the benefit where sex education can ensure the health, social life, and future of the adolescent. I'm convinced that sex education is an important issue that we can achieve upon changing the way of thinking towards sex education. So, I'm calling you to change the stigma where our parents always said, let them learn by themselves. Because let them learn by themselves when it comes about sex education. Because where in the new modern era, the cons are really easy, are much more easier to learn rather than the pros. Thank you.